Hi, my name is Maris, and today I'm presenting my project on building an AI twin, which is a personality capturing chatbot that's created using Agentic AI. So the motivation for this is that I wanted to be able to capture a human-like personality within an interactive chatbot, and there are options for this. One of the big ones is character LLM, but the limitation to using something like this when training a new character, a new personality, is that you require thousands of simulated or real conversations, as well as about 45 minutes on 8 A100 GPUs. And this is not the kind of resourcing that the average person has. So I wanted to create something that was highly personalized, but also more accessible and lightweight that could still do a good job accomplishing its goal. In addition to creating something lightweight, I also wanted to create something that would be easy to use. And by this, I mean I didn't want the user to have to write essays and essays about themselves, or have to deal with some large data capturing from documents or writing pieces from within their own life. I wanted it not to be onerous and to be straightforward. To this end, I started by using only two inputs, and these are things that the average working professional probably has somewhere lying around. So these things are a resume or a CV, which provides professional context, aka what has this person been exposed to in their life, what areas of proficiency do they have, what kind of problems are they dealing on a day-to-day basis, and how do they approach them. And the other input that I wanted to start with is a personal statement. For me personally, I used a personal statement that I wrote many, many years ago when I was applying for undergraduate college. And so this can be a wide variety of things, but it's just intended to get sort of a bit less formal and a bit more personal of a look at what this person is like. So, for instance, what values do they treasure within themselves and find important enough to write down and highlight when communicating it to others? So it's still quite a structured statement, at least typically, but it still gives us a first pass look at what this person might be like. So I use agents based on communication with GPT 4.1 to do this personality and context extraction. And if you look at the code provided or the report provided, both of which go into more detail, you will see that the prompts used for these agents are very specific to the information that I want to gather. So when I'm gathering context from the resume, I don't want it to be extrapolating personality information. I want it to be constructing sort of a character background for the user. Whereas when I'm looking at the personal statement, I want the agent to be able to infer things about their personality. What are their key characteristics, so that we can elaborate on these later on. So after these two inputs have this first pass analysis applied to them, a tailored interview is generated based on that information, and this is intended to deepen the personality profile. Because when you're writing a resume or refining a personal statement that you're using for some sort of application, you want to present yourself in your best light, and you want to admit positive things about yourself while filtering out some other traits that might be very real and might add depth to your character and your personality. And these things, you probably don't want them to come through in your resume and personal statement. So this is why I found it critical to use those agents to extract specific information, but not feed that directly into a model for a chatbot. So this tailored interview is a production of 5 questions that are intended to be incisive and intended to gather real personality data about the person. And so, for example, when I was testing this myself, as a profession, I'm a scientist, and so I was asked about ethical challenges that I might face in the lab and how I would deal with them. The other aspect that's important for this interview is for it not to be too long or deterring for the user. So the interview questions are designed through the prompt and the engineering to have possibly simple questions, but possibly longer questions. And by that, I mean, I could write a few words as a response to some of these questions, or if I so desire, I can write a paragraph. And so this allows for a flexibility that is not off-putting to the high effort or low effort user. Then the output is an AI chatbot that responds like the user does, makes decisions like the user does, and finally the assessment is a reverse Turing test. So essentially I conduct a questionnaire asking the user some questions, asking the AI twin the same questions, and then comparing those answers and having a zero-shot classifier label which one they think is AI and which one they think is human. The first step here is the data ingestion. Now, as I mentioned, the resume, this provides technical information about the user. The personal statement, this is the self-identified personality traits that shine through, that people want other people to know about. So these GPT 4.1 agents are extracting 3 things specifically, and so for that reason, I have 3 agents, each with a unique prompt. The first one, as you can see on this slide, is the context prompt. And this prompt, which feeds into the agent, is trying to understand the life context without inferring things about the personality. The second one, the personal prompt, is looking at those values and those motivations that I mentioned. The third one is a psychoanalyst prompt. And so this analyzes the linguistics and it makes some further reaching assumptions about the personality. And this I wanted to integrate at this point because I felt that if I relied on the first 2 agents alone, then I would end up with a very constrained scope of questions that wouldn't be far-reaching enough to pull out the true personality of the user. So this psychoanalyst prompt serves the purpose of widening the scope and the reach and the intensity of the questions that come in the interview. So the context info, reported traits, and the psychoanalysis, as I mentioned, all feed into the interview. And so that is the purpose of collecting this information. And once this interview is generated, the user can interact with it via the Gradio interface. So it's laid out very neatly. You have text boxes and you can click and type and hit a submit button and it will show you your personality analysis based on your responses and the context that was collected before from the documents. At this point, we've collected certain bits of information. We've collected information from the resume, which was analyzed to give us context information about the history, location, job, etc. of the user. We have information from the personal statement, which was analyzed to produce specifically tailored interview questions designed to draw out the casual and relaxed personality of the user. And we also have the answers from the user to these specifically tailored interview questions. So altogether, we've built up a body of information that can now inform our personality model. So I took the context info from the resume and I specified in another agent that this context information should not be the focus of the chatbot. The chatbot should not exclusively want to talk about professional experiences, but it should serve as a framework and it should provide memory. So if you ask your AI twin who it is or where it works or what it knows about, it should be able to pull on that context information and answer accurately. As for the interview questionnaire, that is analyzed as well in a more in-depth way to provide information not only about the casual, relaxed personality of the user, but also the writing style. Because if you recall, I mentioned that the way that you write in a resume and the way that you write in a polished personal statement is very likely not the way that you're going to text your friends. So for this reason, the interview questions are really key to seeing inside the mind of the person and capturing their casual personality. So those interview questions and answers are analyzed and also fed into the final personality model. And this personality model is another GPT 4.1 based agent, and this one now, through prompt engineering, is well balanced and will be able to speak to you and reflect your own personality. At this point, I wanted to develop a third-party measure, a way of seeing whether or not I was just imagining how well this AI twin was able to reflect my personality. And to that end, I implemented a test very similar to what could be called a reverse Turing test. And so this means that I generated 3 new user-tailored questions using the same approach to which I generated the interview questions prior to this. Then I had both the AI twin and the user answer the same questions separately. Now, I needed to decide what I could use to assess which response is more human. And to this end, I used a large BART MNLI classifier, and this is a zero-shot classifier, which means that it's able to assign labels it's never seen before, using the label content to infer what they actually mean. And so in this case, my labels were human and AI twin. So it was able to infer that human, most likely refer to human, and AI twin, since it contained AI, would refer to AI, so something non-human. So during testing, I saw that the AI twin was misclassified as the human 2 of 3 times when I provided the responses for the human part, which was no doubt interesting. It did make me wonder, am I a computer after all? But in all, this was a very good result because it indicated that the AI twin was performing well and it was matching my decision styles and my personality. And the other interesting thing about this is that the AI twin was able to mimic some of my humor. So during some runs, I would just type like a little bit of a keyboard smash to make sure that the Gradio interface was working. And at one point, the AI twin replied, "Sounds about right," which I thought was a humorous response and I personally found funny. So, plus points for my AI twin for that one. But all in all, this reverse Turing test showed that the decision making was very good, the tone and the phrasing was very good, and it was mistaking me for AI because of how human my AI twin sounded. Thus, we come to the conclusion where my personal takeaway is that the AI twin, though lightweight and easy to train, fast to train, and interactive while still remaining fun, is a good personality capture and an entertaining one to interact with. So in all, I was very happy with this project. I enjoyed it very much, and I thought the outcome was very interesting. On one hand, as an exploration of agentic AI and its capabilities, but on the other hand, also as an exploration of the blending between human and AI, whether intelligence is artificial or all intelligence is just intelligence. And this was sort of a fun way of exploring that. And if you're interested, then I hope you'll download these materials and give it a run yourself and see how well it captures your personality. Before we wrap up, I want to have a look at some of the demo excerpts, which I found very interesting. Now, this came out of me personally training my own AI twin. and feel free to try it yourself and compare it to yours. The tailored rapid fire interview, you can see, has this nice Gradio layout where on the left-hand side, the user tailored interview questions are generated, and there are text boxes for you to type as much or as little as you want within reasonable limits. And then if you scroll down, there's a submit button. And then on the right, you can see your personality profile that's broken down. So this was something that I developed because I thought it would be entertaining to see it, sort of like taking an online personality quiz. And while it would be highly informative for the actual model, so very technically important to do this step, it would also provide some sort of enjoyment for the user to look at these results and read through. And this is what fed into that chatbot, which you can see is connected by that blue arrow, and it's on the top right. And it's, again, Gradio interface is very nice, very clean. You can type, it will respond, and it has a memory of the previous chats that you've had. So if I ask it a question and then I ask it, well, why do you think that? Then because of that memory being fed to the agent again, it's able to respond within the context of the ongoing conversation. You can see that the Turing test interface, where 3 questions are generated and your AI twin as well as yourself have to respond, is very similar to the interface for the tailored rapid fire interview questions. And again, you answer in the text boxes on the left, and this time the analysis on the right is not a character analysis of yourself. Instead, it's showing you what you responded and what your AI twin responded. You get to see them next to each other, and then you get to see the label assigned by the zero-shot classifier. And so if you scroll down, you can see the entirety of results and the number of classifications that the classifier got correct. And so in my case, again, it tended to get them wrong, tended to think that I was AI. And some of the potential reasons for this are that my answers, as you can see on the bottom right, are typically less varied in syntax than the ones generated by the AI twin. So this is a good thing when considering the AI twin, because one potential limitation when looking from a literary viewpoint at generative AI is repetitive syntax, or essentially writing in the same sort of flavor over and over again in a way that gets tiring. And so the AI twin was not doing that. It was able to have varied structures. It was using diction that was similar to what I had put in my interview questions. And all in all, I think that it was a fair assessment for the classifier to be mixing up between me and AI. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.